Maths, you see, is your manipulatives. You're going to need a few sets of those. You're going to have to manage them very well. And see to it that they are well looked after. And whoever's having the lesson with these is put back in place and all the rest of it. So you can have a table, all of them sharing at the same time, different ages, different levels. You can pop the DVD in, and you can let Steve be your maths teacher for you. And you don't have to rack your brain and see how much you've remembered and how much you're rusty with it. And he'll do the lesson for you. You watch it. You've got your instruction manual, whereby a very good idea, by the way, teachers, is once you've listened to this with the children, or before you listen to the children, just read the 1 or 2 pages pertaining to that lesson out the parent book. The instruction gives you more than what has been given here, so that you actually end up being smarter than Steve at the end, according to the children, that is. Because now you've got the lesson and you've got that, and now you can help direct them in the actual lesson. It's really, really hand-holding stuff. And even if you can't, because you're busy with preparing or doing language with another child, you can actually set them to do this independently if need be. Steve wouldn't like me to be saying that because he wants parent involvement in the maths lessons. Okay, but I'm thinking of an orphanage's realities. Yeah. Okay. So it's the same story. You place your child at the level, each individual child, do the assessments on the site, place them in the level that is appropriate to them. Doesn't matter if Vernon's maths is, if he's strong or weak or whatever it is, he's just doing gamma and it's his colour. It doesn't matter about the grade, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. You just work through the program according to the pace. Same principle as language. That's why I say there's not really much to say about the maths program. It's pretty self-explanatory. As I said, if you do have specific questions about it, we can get to those later. But you've got your student book, you've got your parent book, or your instruction manual, or your teacher book, whatever you want to reference it as, and then the test book. Now the test book is once they finished a particular lesson, it could take a week or 2 or 3 or 2 days, depends. They would do a test on that particular lesson. The thing that I can emphasize mostly about maths, you see, is don't move on to the next lesson if they only got half of the test of that right, because now they've only caught half of the lesson. So what is the point of going on if there's big holes? So let it take the time that it needs to redo the lesson, watch the DVD again, help them, come alongside them. But if they're doing the test and they're just flying on, then there's not much involvement needed because they're just managing on their own. So the test is basically your guide according to measuring your children's abilities of what they've learned. And again, when they get to the end of their maths, they're not going to write get a grade level test. I'm looking on the wrong. Oh no, I'm looking right. They're going to get at the end. Congratulations, you finished gamma. You can move on to the next level. That's their certificate if you need certificates. If you need certificates as far as government is concerned and official, your sponsors need to know that the children are learning. As far as that's concerned, then you can send them to the website, to the Oikos website. They can see why it is that we don't focus on certificates, because God didn't say, I need to see your certificate to enter heaven. He said, I need to see that you've surrendered your life. Once you've surrendered your life, and your life is mine, the life I created for you to give to me, for me to live in you, and so on and so forth, that's your ticket to heaven, right? That's what he's interested in, is your life. And so that's what you're interested in your children, that you are bringing them to that place. So you're giving them these skills to help them as well to be effective for God in their particular purpose and calling. So if governments or sponsors are wanting to know about whether they're actually getting educated adequately, then you can show them that these resources are to help people to assess. No, how do I put it? To help officials to be assured that the children that you are caring for are actually getting an education. You can keep these certificates at the back and you can put it into the children's files, and you can be assured, you can be confident yourself and go, oh yes, no, we're definitely covering the maths and the language, and getting the numeracy and literacy. That's where we're focusing on, because that's what's important. We're also covering all the other social studies subjects, geography, history, science, doing all of that, Kronos, and we're covering the maths and language at their particular levels, they're progressing well, you get their file out and it's got their certificates in it. Do you see, you need to be confident in what you are doing is sufficient for those children. And when outside come and question you, you don't get rocky and unstable with it. You're confident. We're doing what God wants us to do, and we're doing it well, and we're doing a good job, and He is satisfied. But then show them how satisfied God is with what you're doing, confidently. That's how I suggest you deal with outsiders that are questioning the work that you're doing and needing to bring a whole lot of red tape and stipulations and everything else that are not actually necessarily for the interest of the child. It's not actually for their good. The child's good, that the officials are maybe just doing their job because they've been told they need to check out that these children are not being harmed, that they are being educated. So they're just doing their job. So they need to hear that you are doing your job and you're doing it exceptionally well. You're doing it at a standard of extreme excellence. That's what they need to know. Because you're taking care of the children that the parents aren't able to take care of because they're not here or otherwise. All right? So you're taking care of them. So now it becomes a state government concern. Are those children really being cared for? And so now if they can be assured, yes, they're being cared for. Hygiene, food, bed, roof over their head, they're warm, they fed, and they're educated. And this is how. And that can be passed on to them with assurance that all is well. Then there's no more questions asked. It's when children's homes are insecure in their delivery to these officials. That's when it becomes a problem for the officials, because then they've got reason to be concerned. Isn't that right? Okay, so they don't have reason to be concerned. I can speak to the officials as well. You don't have reason to be concerned because, people are doing a good job from the goodness of their heart and they need support with that. And there's somebody taking care of those children that otherwise wouldn't be taken care of. So they need to support you rather than put pressure on you. That's how I see it. Okay. The bookkeeping, you can read about that and see about that on the website. That I would believe would be very, 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 very useful for anybody over age 16 in your children's home to help them to be good stewards of the finances. It teaches about bank statements and balance sheets and budgeting and everything to do with being a good steward of your finances. So I would suggest it's a parent manual and a student book. All right. Just before we go off the maths, there are special little helping things like the songbook for Gamma, which is your teaching them multiplication in the form of song, and there's a disc with it so that it becomes easy to memorize, so that it doesn't become a drill. And then your fraction flips is a massive eye-opener for teachers and for parents and for the children, because it brings it all together in this form of a manipulative. Did you get these?
I got that.
Okay, this is a huge aid. Again, you might need more than one set, depending on how many children are going to be using them. Otherwise, very carefully looked after. Don't lose any pieces. Okay. This is just a tremendous support. It's like I showed you Latin, and then there's the spelling, and there's the extra things. Well, actually, maths is a bit different to that in the fact that you shouldn't use the program without the manipulatives. They go together. It's not a nice to have, it's a must have, basically.